गजाननं भूतगणादिसेवितं कपित्तजम्बूफलसारभक्षितं उमासुतं शोकविनाशकारणं नमामि विघ्नेश्वरपादपङ्कजं श्रदाननामकुङ्कुमरक्तवर्णं महामलिन्दिव्यमयूरवाहनं रुद्रस्य सूनुं सुरसैन्यनाथं गुहं सदाहं शरणं प्रपद्ये या कुन्देन्दुतुषारहालधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिभिर्देवैः सदा पूजिता सा मम पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाध्यापः ॐ नमः शिवाय गुरवे सच्चिदानन्दमूर्तये निष्प्रम्भजाय शान्ताय श्रीशिवानन्दाय ते नमः श्रीविष्णुदेवानन्दाय ते नमः ॐ सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरी नारायणि नमोस्तुते नारायण नमोस्तुते शांति 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 ओम पीस हम वो सदगुरु शिवान महाराज की जय वो श्री विष्णु देवान महाराज की जय Om Namah Shivaya. Good evening. Welcome to our 142nd class. The classes, they're going to be the end of the 11th chapter. So with a new group of classes starting in about 2 weeks' time, we'll begin with the 12th chapter. So this was one of the most exciting excursions into the Gita with the permission of the Lord. With the grace of the Lord, we had an opportunity to enter into the vision of this Arjuna together with Arjuna. So Arjuna had rather, one of the greatest blessings. It is, in fact, not one, it is the greatest blessing, and that is the vision of the divine. And the vision of the cosmic form of the Lord, which is the vision of the creation as such, and also the realization of the power that holds the whole creation in its movement, and it is what it is. Now, Arjuna saw all this activity taking place simultaneously, which is a characteristic of this experience. And all these experiences, activities took place as if in one breath. Now, in Ishvara's realm, there is neither time, no space, no causation. Okay, so there's no cause and effect, there's no time, no nothing. But from our point of view, everything seems to be taking place, one thing at a time, consecutively like that. So all experiences of all beings in this cosmic vision have been compressed down to a single vision that, of course, in the eyes of Arjuna may have lasted for a long time, but yet it is again beyond the time. And all these experiences of all beings through the power of the Lord, through his Maya, was taking place, as I said, simultaneously. This is called Yugapat in Sanskrit. And they're given literally as in a single moment. Now, ordinary mind cannot understand or comprehend this. It is not possible. In our ordinary experience, the very time, the space, and the whole idea of a cause and effect are the very fabric, we could say, or the canvas on which different experiences are projected and painted. So we could not have an experience with the ordinary mind of that which is beyond the mind. In fact, if you remember in meditation, we spoke about this, that one has to transcend the time and space and causation. That means one has to transcend the mind as it is in order to have any kind of experience that is of a transcendental nature, needless to say, our cosmic vision itself. So these all the three, which is the time, space, and causation, are truly the elements of Yoga Maya, we could say. And they're the result of the activity of the Ishvaras within our consciousness, if I may say. We could say that this time and the space and causations are the effects of the Yoga Maya of Ishvara, and yet experienced by the individual mind in the way we do experience it, which is not the final, because the mind in itself is a miniature of Maya. So now we come to try to understand this vision. Uh, we may try to our best, our level best to understand what this vision is about, and we may find it very difficult. In fact, it's impossible. But yet we have to make an effort to comprehend it. So this experience is one, if you remember, of the series of samadhis. And a very high, the highest samadhi within the creation is to have this, obviously, cosmic vision. This samadhi that we speak about is simply, in the yogic terms, called an intuition. Now, this is not an intuition that we people speak about in a regular kind of a sense. This intuition is the samadhi. It is the capacity of one person to transcend the ordinary existence as an individual self, as the self within a time, space, and causation. The self, which is basically embedded in ignorance, is to go beyond that. So all kinds of powers, all kinds of the strengths come as a result of it. But here we're talking about an experience that is taking place due to the prevalence of sattva guna. Because to have this experience, the tamas and rajas, as we said, must have gone to a great degree. And because here Arjuna is still having obviously some experiences outside of the vision, in a sense, he is in the vision, but yet he's having still some presence of his ego consciousness, which we're going to analyze why that takes place. So the interesting thing is that this experience cannot be had by any amount of the individual efforts, individual will. And it requires a complete, unreserved surrender to the divine, and of course, a great bhakti as such. So, this cosmic vision, which is the vision of God Himself or herself, as the creation, as the not just as a creation, but this is a cosmic vision of the Lord Himself as the creator, sustainer, and a destroyer of all forms and all names. Now, why cannot the individual, through his or her own efforts, have such a vision? We have to look at that. Okay, because here we have to introduce a little concept of cause and effect. And this is what we want to say. The effort of an individual is ultimately the effort of something which is limited and finite. Now, the thing here is that if the effort is the effect of the finite individual, then what happens if, let's say, the vision is obviously, which is that of the infinite, if this vision was had by an effect which is equally infinite, we have to ask this question: are we infinite or not? Obviously, on one level we are, but as the mind we are not. So what we're trying to say here is that the cause, and this is a little bit of a Vedanta perhaps, and adding a little bit of an understanding of what is taking place, the cause in itself is supposed to be the larger than the effect in comprehension and understanding. So if the cause, which is infinite, produces the individual which is equally infinite, then that individual could not be smaller than the infinite or the absolute. So, in any way, if that be the case, then if the effect is infinite of experience, how could the cause be infinitude itself? So it is said that nothing, what I'm trying to say is that the infinite consciousness cannot have, as a cause, cannot have an infinite effect here in a form of the mind that can actually dictate or force its way back into the infinite. So what we're saying is that the mind is finite, and the finite cannot have the experience of the infinite. So the thing is that um, what we're aiming at here is to say that there's no effort that can be had, that can be made by an individual, and that can lead us to the infinite, the ultimate infinite. Okay, so this is also supported by Vedanta and also by Bhakti. See, for example, nothing that one does, even spiritually speaking, can bring about this experience because this experience belongs to the realm of the infinite. And only the infinite can grant this kind of an experience of infinity, which means that only infinite has this capacity of grace within it, or has this component of grace in it. We could say that the infinite and the grace are one and the same thing, or infinite and the Lord and the grace are one and the same. Now, of course, we have to remember that one has to be an adhikari, or one has to have the conditions or certain preparations or eligibility to be able to enter into this vision, for which purpose we believe that Arjuna had it, but yet Arjuna did not merge in this vision. We will see that in a second. So even the highest form of asceticism, tapas, as we know it, cannot be regarded as a means of having this vision. Now, in this experience, it is really God that perceives or experiences God. It's not an individual person that experiences God. It's the divine in you that has the experience of the divine. So it's your highest component. We may call it the soul, or we may call it any way you like it, that has the experience of that infinity. But it is only through the Maya, to the Lord's Maya, that this experience can be had, and it is due to the presence of Yoga Maya of the Lord, over which, of course, the individual has no any control, that this vision can be created or had. So this vision, what happens is that we cease to be. Practically speaking, in the samadhi, our experience is that if we were to go all the way, we will be entering into the vision, into the experience of God. So we would cease to exist as such, as an individual. The perceiving self, we could say, just simply melts away. Now, no, now obviously some human effort is needed in order to affect the purification of the mind. As we know, in Vedanta we have Mala, then we have Vikshepa and Avarana. We have a gross impurities in a form of the individual self with all its components, likes and dislikes and so on. We have Vikshepa, which is the oscillation, the fluctuation of the mind. The little mind that is a miniature of Maya is nothing but an experience of fluctuation, which in itself creates the perception of the whole universe. Can you believe it? That's called the little spuranam of a vibration, of throbbing within the consciousness that takes place due to gunas activity that creates, obviously the rajas specifically creates this vibration, the oscillation, that all of a sudden our infinity breaks into an infinite number of vrittis or thought waves. It creates this whole thing that we believe it to be real, and therefore we have a problem, as we know it. So we have to do sadhana. This is the important thing. At this point, we cannot say that, but we must remember that in the higher stages of sadhana, we realize that even that effort that we're making, okay, is nothing but the working of the infinite Lord or the Ishvara's consciousness through the instrumentality of our bodies and our minds. So in Tantra, we say that it is the Shakti that is awakened in a human being. First, it's an individual Shakti, let's say, then you use a mantra. That's a mantra Shakti, it's a deity Shakti. And then it is the deity Shakti, or that's the divine that works through you, does the sadhana, accomplishes everything, as if you're just sitting there and doing nothing. In appearance, of course, but we're asked to do our bit and our part here. What we are going to end up understanding is that there isn't such a thing as our part. But in the beginning, we have to believe that. We have to go with that. So our sense of acting, our sense of doing, all this later on is found to be a pure delusion. Okay. Yet somehow at this point we must feel that we're contributing to our growth, spiritually speaking. So what we should do really gradually, we should feel that we must act and feel that it is the Lord that does the actions. You know, He does all these things, and this is specifically when our activity is impelled by sattva guna. Okay, because that means that when we do selfless actions, we do sadhanas and everything. When our mind comes with its rajas and tamas, you know, yes, you may say, well, that's also Lord's activity, but I would rather keep that out. So this is important because a person who knows that God works through them would not be able to do tamasic and rajasic actions like that anymore. So when you're impelled by sattva, you'll be impelled to do good, serve, and love everybody. And in the later stages, we will find, as Swami Krishnananda says beautifully, that we're being taken away by the current of a higher law, which operates in a totally different way, right? So when you transcend the individual self, the personality, when you discover the law that actually acts in it, you're going to have to surrender to it. You will not be able to work against it because if you work against this, it means you don't know the law. So this is a very important thing, is that, you know, a sage or a saint as such acts according to the gravitational pull of this of the divine, and this can only take place because of the loss of the individual cravings, desires, ignorance, which actually creates the sense of individual self. We don't realize that the sense of individual self is an artificial creation of our all desires and all things that we ever wanted to experience, positive and negative, and now we feel, okay, this is myself. You know, so I think we mentioned once before, the individual self, a sense of it, the selfishness that we experience in a you know regular kind of way, is the result of all misdirected actions, mis you know all the desire driven actions in the past. So it's really, in a sense, the sense of the individual self is the resultant of um, of the demerit. So I'll leave you to meditate on this. Now, so human effort um, has uh, not been able to accomplish this vision. Only through this simple self-surrender we can have even the understanding of this. You know, you have to have a humility to even comprehend to some degree how this works. Needless to say, that humility is the result of letting go of the ego. If there is something beautiful about the quality of humility, is that there's no me. And if there's no me, that doesn't mean that I don't exist as the presence of the awareness, but I don't exist as this demanding self that is always trying to make the best out of conditions for its own contentment or pleasure. So we have to move gradually from the personal to the impersonal, from the impersonal to the universal. This is basically how spiritual sadhana works. You begin with your karma yoga, selfless service. Whether within a family, you're forced to basically let go of expectations, of attachments, and just do and perform your duty. And then also, of course, if you live in ashrams or places like that, we learn clearly in a community is that the best type of action is that one which is selfless, and it's that one is the most powerful because such an action draws to itself the components of divine grace and also hierarchy of divine beings. It supports us in that activity. So that's obviously the first thing. So first we need to break this wall of the illusory self and thinking this is me, this little self, living here in Manhattan, New York. I have to worry about my life. I have to make money. I have to do this and I have to do that. A devotee has nothing to worry about. He knows that it's the Lord taking the you know this body and this mind for its instruments, and it's whatever needs to be done. It's the will of the Lord. It cannot be the will of the Lord is not something that manifests occasionally, and then it doesn't manifest tomorrow. It manifests in certain action, and it doesn't manifest, in some other actions. The the presence of the Lord it's total, it's complete. It's like the awareness of your body, it's complete and total. It's not like you, of course, when you're aware of something, you're not aware of something else, but there is underneath there's a totality of the awareness of all. So that's closer to what we may call Ishvara's consciousness. So we're moving from the personal to impersonal. You find a lot of impersonal, but that doesn't mean that the personal should not have impersonal should not have a certain quality of kindness and love and everything. Often people, in the name of the impersonal, they live a life of detachment and they don't want to give any of the warmth of that. We have to understand that the activity of Ishvara, as much as it can be understood by a human heart or mind, is always love-based. And the love is the experience of Ishvara. I cannot think of a bhakti being experienced in any way but pure love. So we can't think that the activity of Ishvara is just purely a mechanical computer kind of generated activity, which some people seem to believe. They believe that the higher intelligence is all computers, it's all higher technology and everything. But there is within this whole system of creation, there's an all pervading law of Dharma or law of love which is nothing but Ishvara in manifestation. So let us try to move from the individual to impersonal, personal to impersonal, and then from there to the universal, which means we become one with Ishvara. Just like Arjuna was having this vision, but he did not enter into it. Nevertheless, he had that experience of kind of oneness for even a few moments. Okay, so why is it so hard to attain this vision? Even by gods, it's mentioned by Lord Krishna, even by angels, it is not possible for them to have this vision. Why? It's not that the God withholds this vision from these higher beings than even humans. The point is this, is that each one of these, gods and angels and so on, they have their own sense of existence or individuality, even though they may have different types of experiences, much more refined, much more synthesized. They have different types of bodies. They may have the bodies of fire element or ether element, not like we have water and the earth and the other elements, but primarily water and earth. We're very material. We have material bodies. So all these uh, beings have the sense of individuality. Even in heavens, the beings have the sense of individuality, which prevents them from having this vision, from having this experience. So this stage, this vision, manifests in three stages. One is first, one has to know about it. So one has to be exposed to it, such as through a teaching of such a holy scripture like the Bhagavad Gita. Second one needs to see it, like Arjuna had it. And the last one has to enter it. But remember, Arjuna did not enter this vision because he was he still had that sense of ego consciousness. He did not want to merge. So we have three stages called jnana, darshanam, jnanam, darshanam, and praveshya. Praveshya means entry. Jnanam is knowledge, darshanam is seeing, and pravesha. Pravesha means seeing, entering. So he would have to have lost his individual form and name of consciousness if he was to enter that vision. This reminds us on Swami Vishnu's saying when he says it's like a river that has to abandon its name and form in order to merge itself with the ocean. Now, when we merge with the ocean, what happens? You may think, okay, river unfortunately had to give up its own individual self and form, but we don't think that the very river has been enlarged, empowered by the greatness to the vastness of the ocean. The very little river had little, even though it may have been cute or beautiful, nevertheless it had limited power. It had no, the qualities that the ocean has. So the infinitude of all the qualities of the vision became the quality of the infinitude also of the river. So we need to think in this way. So we're not losing anything by becoming one with the Lord. In fact, we're gaining everything. What is it to be gained? Through a small little individual self with a daily likes and dislikes. And it's a miserable life. That's called samsara. So this experience is a terrific experience. It's a terrifying experience. And it's also an experience that is, we could say, it's a part of a Kundalini awakening. When we study the Kundalini awakening and the different stages, we realize that each one of the movements from one realm to another is equally terrifying. And it's terrifying only because there is an individual to be terrified. If you try to enter into the divine, or not try, of course, but if your heart is full of pure love and surrender, you will have no problem with that. So even in the process of awakening of Kundalini, we have two important things. One is that there's always a knowledge that is gained while consciousness expands further. And on top of it, we have to realize that in order to reach the highest point, we need to be able to let go of the lower points. So we cannot wish to have any spiritual experience of any kind, of any world, of anything that the particular level of your experience unfolds. You have to keep on moving up in order to be actually merging into the Lord. So this vision again cannot be had as long as the ego is there, because the ego cannot do it. The ego is unwilling to nullify or itself. It cannot will its own destruction. That's the nature of the ego. So this vision is such that it's also meant to appear and vanish. It's not supposed to stay forever. It's only here what the Lord Krishna is giving us is just a taste of experience of who he is as creation. See, we as human beings cannot know the operation of grace, of that omniscient law of love. Nobody knows how it descends, how this grace descends. It is a mystery, it is a miracle, and it is a wonder. Yeah, so work selflessly. I would say we all should work selflessly. We should surrender completely. How would you surrender completely? We see if you work selflessly, we must be able to let go of our desires. It is our desires that keep us in this limited body, limited mind, and very limited experience, right? So giving up desires doesn't mean killing one's own desire to live, to be happy, or whatever. It means simply expanding them and including more beings, serving, and then our desires will be fulfilled eventually. So that could be another subject in itself. So work selflessly, surrender to God, and call nothing your own. This is Swami Shivananda's teaching. Nothing belongs to me, nothing is my own. And this means that even our own breath is nothing but the result of His grace. And you will have this vision if you're able to transcend your likes and dislikes, which is nothing but the ego consciousness, said in a different way. Know that His laws, His will, His awareness operates through your body. For example, it is Ishvara that manifests as our eyes, our ability to see, and even as the objects. So when we know that, we take care of our eyes, we make sure we're trying to see things that are the most conducive to our spiritual life. Like that, we have to think in this way. Consciousness of hunger or thirst, um, digestion that we experience is nothing but His presence. All the existence of cosmic nature, the existence of your relatives, friends, enemies, parents, teachers, all these are nothing but Ishvara. All the people that we know, including ourselves, with ordinary or extraordinary problems and suffering, are nothing but Ishvara. If you have a friend, an alcoholic friend, an alcoholic relative, it is nothing but Ishvara. It is kind of a grace of God that you have these kind of people in your life so you can learn humility, you can learn giving, selflessness, and all that. Even our, as they call them here, paychecks, our ability to earn money, to have a certain amount of wealth, is nothing but, again, the presence of Ishvara. Our sleep is nothing but manifestation of Ishvara. Do we have any control over any of these things? I mean, of course, it appears that we have some influence there, but it's not like that. It's all Ishvara. Your next moment is the, manifestation of Ishvara. Your next day is a manifestation of Ishvara. Your perception of sunrise, all our life and everything is nothing but Ishvara. So the human effort, the human action, to conclude, cannot really touch eternity, because all action again is within, the human action is within time, within space, within causation. It's part of a process, it's part of something that is divided, and so this is what I wanted to share with you. Now, to finish our little class today, which is slightly different from before, we're not going to go through our verse that I planned. Next time we'll finish all the verses. I want to share something from Swami Krishnanda. He says this eternal terror, which was beheld by Arjuna, was not in space, not in time. Therefore, all studies of the Veda, Vedanta, or anything we like, our tapas or meditation, all the things that we do, our charities, the things that we give away with great, all the things that are supposed to create merit, benefit, spiritual kind of thing. Any of these deeds, whatever they merit, they are, after all, like performances in the dream world. When we wake up, the merits of all our good deeds in the dream disappear. Similarly, in the quality of the perception of the Supreme Being, actions of the human being in the world of space and time bear no relevance from a highest point. No action which is conditioned by time can take us to the unconditional reality, which is not in time. The imperishable, eternal reality cannot be contacted through the imperishable, through the instrumentality of perishable deeds. So the imperishable eternal reality cannot be contacted through the instrumentality of perishable deeds. Action deeds that we perform in this world have a beginning and an end. They are not eternal. How could we have the vision of that eternal contact with eternal or attain realization with that of that eternal which is timeless when the instruments that we're using for that purpose are in time? Nobody can behold this form. Do not be frightened. Do not be deluded. Be up and doing. Why are you afraid of seeing me? Lord Krishna is saying, be happy that you have beheld me. I look terrific and terrifying because I am a terror to the egos of the individuals, as if Lord Krishna was speaking like that. Who is saying, I'm afraid? Yeah, you would think of the Arjuna, right? It is the ego of Arjuna that is saying that. The ego of Arjuna has not melted, and this is why he did not enter into that form. It is frightened, naturally, as we are frightened to touch the oceanic waves. We are afraid to touch even the body of an elephant because of our ego, right? We have so many fears because the fear is ego. It's one of the manifestations of ego. The eternal is death to everything that is in time. Therefore, God looks like a terrifying being to all who are afraid of death, because God is the death of all death. It's called Mrityuho, Mrityuhu. So that's what is said also in some other Upanishads. Therefore, knowing this truth of mine, Lord Krishna is as if saying, do not be bewildered. Don't say, I'm afraid. There's nothing here to be afraid of. Be fearless. Be pleased and be subdued in your mind. So here I am, I reappear myself, and this is what happens. So, in one moment of that stupendous vision, the world vanished before Arjuna. We talk about the 14 worlds. So the 14 worlds of the entire creation melted down into the liquid of the flame of the eternal Godhead. Unable to behold it for a long time, he beseeches the Lord to come down to the original human form. This request is granted, and Sri Krishna is standing there as before. Remember, we said this last time. So we will continue next time to just kind of wrap up around this lovely subject of this divine form. We still have to do a lot of meditation on it, and I'm very, very pleased that I managed to spend quite a few classes exploring myself, this beautiful form, and sharing this with you. So we'll finish now the three Oms. Om, 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 Purnamada, Purnamida, Purnat, Purnamudachite, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnamavashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. सदगुरु शिवान महाराज की जय। श्री विष्णुदेव महाराज की जय।